Hello, this is Jeff at 1300seconds at gmail.com, and I figured I would do this video on hogs. I'm seeing a lot of videos out there about hogs. Everybody can make money with hogs, and most of it's complete and total bullshit. So I figured I'd do a video on the cost just to feed out hogs. Now, this is not pasture-raised pork. This is obviously a fenced-in, containerized situation, but I figured I'd do a video about them and give people kind of a breakdown, since everybody wants to do this homestead bit right now. And everybody's selling all this horse shit about going off the grid and so on and so forth. All right, so what we have in here are 3 hogs. You've got a Yorkshire, there's another Yorkshire, and then I got a Duroc Berkshire cross. Durocs, in my opinion, are the best breed of hog, or a Hampshire. I'd take either. I'm not a fan of Yorkshires, but that's what we got. They sunburn like a son of a bitch, and I mean like a son of a bitch. So I figured I'd walk through the cost of all this. Okay, so first off, that Yorkshire and its sibling were each $75 hogs, and then the Duroc Berkshire cross I got was a $60 hog. Okay, so set up a hog pen. What's that going to cost you? So you go get your hog paneling, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hog panels, and then you see the little enclosure there, 7, 8 hog panels. Each of those is $32 a piece. So let's do our math. That's what, $240. Then you got each one of your pickets. Let's say that's, I don't know, 24 pickets. I'm not even gonna bother counting. That's $6 a pop. So let's say that's $1.50. So now we're up to $390. Okay. You see the carrier crates, we brought them home in. Every time it threatens to hail out here, my wife flips out, and I have to put those back in the pen with them. Anyway, they won't be able to fit in there in about another month. Okay, so then you got their water container. That was $60 from Tractor Supply. I had those concrete masonry units, those blocks staying out here. Thinks it's gonna get fed. And then there's the Duroc Berkshire cross I was talking about. Anyway, I had those blocks out here, pulled those out of a ditch, so those didn't cost anything. That container from Tractor Supply cost $60. I left it open, obviously, so I could just dump water in from the top. And then you have little pig nipples there on the front. That's what they drink out of. You can get those offline. Those are about $5 a pop. You can see it drinking. And then you got it's actually portable feed bucket / troughs. Those are about $10 a piece from Tractor Supply. I don't get a dime from Tractor Supply for saying all this. So anyway, what are we up to? $390, $60, $450. Let's say $450. Do a salt block we had in here from feeding out a calf. Got that pallet there for free. Threw that in to help block out the sun. I'll put another pallet here. And then you got that tarp. That was $35. So we're now up to about $485. Then let's go over here to its feed containers. By the way, this is reclaimed post I pulled out of a swamp. Same here. This gate was $150. So that'd be what is it, $480. So we're up to $630. Each of these barrels is $100. That's where you put their feed. You want to be able to lock it in. So now we're up to $830. So we're up to $830. That was a donator barrel. We're up to $830. Okay, so then let's talk about their feed. What's their feed consist of? What does hog feed consist of? What does chick feed consist of? What does cattle feed consist of? It sort of kind of depends, but there's basically a magic formula. The number one thing I will tell you is, if you decide you want to feed out hogs, if you're doing it through Tractor Supply, you're a fool. I like Tractor Supply, but they're going to charge you about 49 cents a pound. If you go to an MFA or a co-op, or if you know somebody that's owns a local feed mill, as I do, they're going to run you 14 cents a pound to about 30 cents a pound. So what does hog feed, chicken feed, cattle feed consist of? Well, it's about 70% corn, about 20% corn meal, or as I was, soybean meal, and about 10% minerals. And just like you had that grandma or that aunt that had a secret recipe and left it in her will for how she made her cookies, it's kind of the same thing. Everybody does a little bit different spin on it, and I mean everybody. And that will greatly affect the taste of the meat. It will, as well as the breed. But you're going to spend roughly 700 pounds, maybe 800 pounds worth of feed to get a hog to slaughter weight. Okay, so they're all under 100 pounds now. You want them up to 280 pounds. That's about the magic weight that you want, about 280 to take them to slaughter. So you're gonna spend roughly 3-to-1 food conversion ratio, meaning they need 3 pounds of feed for every 1 pound of weight they put on. Okay, and then this is where you get into the great pig debate, right? Just like people debate about trucks, people debate about, you name it, what's the best breed of hog? Hogs come into 2 flavors. You got lard hogs and you got bacon hogs. Lard hogs are just that, they're full of fat, a lot of back fat. Bacon hogs, they're a bit of a different breed. And to me, they're a lot leaner and they taste a lot better, so I'm a fan of bacon hogs, not lard hogs. Something I'll tell you else about Yorkshires and why I don't like them. They sunburn like a son of a bitch. You see they're pink? See how they're fighting? They got 3 different bowls they could go to, but they're all fighting over the same one. Durocs don't sunburn. Hampshires don't sunburn. Yorkshires, they sunburn. And you hear them squealing and yelling and screaming and hollering and they're pissed off. So anyway, so what's the feed gonna run me, right? What's the feed gonna run me? Because now we're up to 830 bucks. What's the feed gonna run me? It's gonna run me about $620. And that's with knowing a guy that I've gone to school with, / grew up with. Jesus, I've known that guy for 30 years that I buy my feed from. And it's about half the cost of Tractor Supply. So you're looking at about $1,600 for setup for the first year for 3 hogs. $1,600 for 3 hogs. You figure each of them up to 280 pounds. And then you've got the conversion ratio of about, let's say 60%, 70% of actual meat off of that. So when you divide all that up for the first year, it's gonna cost you roughly $5 a pound for the meat that you get. And you say, well, goddamn, why would I do that? Why wouldn't I go to the store? You can control what they eat. You can control how they're slaughtered. You can control how they're raised. And oh, by the way, that's greatly going to affect the taste of the meat. But then the second year, what are you not paying for? You're not paying for any of this infrastructure. You're not paying for the fence. You're not paying for anything that you've already purchased, with the exception of the feed and the hogs themselves. That's the only thing you're paying for that second year. So your cost is going to go from roughly $5 a pound down to about $2 a pound, which is cheaper than you can get them at the grocery store. What else can I tell you? There's this myth that hogs are filthy and nasty. They're not. They're smarter than most dogs, in my opinion. But they got to have wallows. They got to have places to get out of the damn sun. Hence why I gave them this. Something you never hear people talk about is how important it is for hogs to get clean air. All right, that's something they're not getting in a nasty ass barn. That's something they're not getting inside. They got to have that clean air. I got mine right next to a creek. Cold air drops. So by being next to a creek, what's happening? They're getting the cold air of that water off the creek. It's a lot colder farther down you go. And that's relative, because obviously if you drilled to the core of the earth, it'd get real hot eventually. But point is, this close to a creek, it's pretty cool. And they like that. Right? They don't like being hot. You got to give them shade. The hotter it is, the less they eat. The cooler they are, the more they'll eat. So you want them to eat and eat and eat and eat. Okay? They got to have their water. They got to have their mud. They got to tear shit up. But they got to be cool. You're allowing them to be next to a creek. You're allowing them to have wind and cold air go through, and you're giving them overhead protection. And that cools them off. By the way, this is something my grandma used to do. I can't say this works. I can't say it doesn't work. But she always used to take logs. She'd throw them in a fire, get a nice crisp on them, a charcoal, and then she'd throw them in and let the hogs chew on them. And that was her all-natural recipe for keeping hogs from getting sick. Whether it's bullshit or whether it works or not, I don't know. I don't care. My grandma did it. I'm doing it. So I was giving them some charcoal, in this case logs, and that gives them something to do, to chew on instead of chewing on one another. And they just go in there and hammer the shit out of that log. But anyway, that's it. This is not the first year going to be a cheap endeavor. You're going to spend $1,000 plus, $1,500 plus, and this is just 3 hogs. Oh, something else I'm leaving out is the processing fees. I told my wife, I said I'd butcher them. Mama Bear wasn't hearing that. So we got to take them to a butcher, and that's going to run about $250 per hog. So we're going to spend over $2,000 for this first year for roughly 140, 280, 420 to about 500 pounds worth of pork. But like I said, that second year, you're gonna shave off $800+ off of that, because the infrastructure is already set up. They're in here. I've never ran a hot wire. I know people that have. Again, this is just a feed out situation. This ain't a commercial feeding situation. This is just a feed out situation. I've never ran a hot wire because my hogs are not going to get that big. They're going to get to 280, 3 bills, and then they're going to get fed, and then they're going to get slaughtered. That's it. Something else I would tell you is don't ever skimp on the wiring. Like I said, hogs are real smart. If they can find a way to get out of something, they will. And once these hogs get out, you ain't getting them back in. Unless you lure them back with feed, you ain't getting them back in. So get them where they need to be, feed them what you need to feed them to keep them in there, keep them happy, keep them fed, come slaughter time. And let's see, it is May now, so we got June, July, August, September, and then, so we got 4 months, and then they're going to the butcher. And that's it. Comments, questions, or concerns, my name is Jeff, and this is 1300seconds@gmail.com.